Peace and love, family, and welcome. Welcome to another Sunday Hope and Healing session. My name is Royce Fletcher Thomason, and today I'm here to talk with you about how I learned to heal and about how you can too. A lot of people know me as someone who endeavors to and is occasionally, maybe frequently, successful in helping to bring encouragement and hope into people's lives. Someone who people feel peace in the presence of, and I'm very thankful for that. Many others know me as a so-called healer, as a vessel of healing, and as the person who was the vessel through which a methodology, a very powerful methodology of healing known as Transcending the Matrix, came into the world 20-something years ago. And today, our topic, I'm dealing with this topic of how I learned to heal and how you can too. And this is very near and dear to me, okay? By the way, I'm sending out a bunch of love to everyone who's out there, wherever you are, from my heart to yours. May this love reach you exactly how and where you need it to, and bring something of value to you in your life. But dealing with our topic today, which is how I learned to heal and how you can too, in a way, this is two-sided. Okay. Like I said earlier, a lot of people know me as a person who does healing on other people. And frankly, I've been blessed to see a lot of that, to participate in a lot of that with a lot of people all over the globe. And I'm very thankful for that, for the wonderful things that I've seen happen in people's lives that have really been a blessing for people. I'm very, very thankful for that. Now, I'll share that aspect with you of how I learned to heal. There's another aspect that I wanted to share with you too. And maybe some of you all can relate to this. And that's in terms of one's own healing. I will admit to you that there are a lot of us in the earth realm who endeavor to bring light and to bring love, who consider ourselves light workers or star seeds, or just folks who are really endeavoring to help make this world a better place, to bring increased levels of peace and joy and blessedness to the planet and her inhabitants, right? And so I believe myself to be one of those people. And yet there are a lot of people who fall into these categories. A lot of people who are light workers, a lot of people who are gentle souls in many cases, a lot of people who really want nothing more than to offer in a spirit of service something of value that's going to make life better for other people, for everyone, and the planet as a whole. And yet, there are a lot of us who fall in the category of healers of other people, who are unhealed healers or wounded healers within our own right, who also are in need of healing. The light keeps popping up. Before we got started, my ring light went off and I couldn't get it to come back on. At any rate, we proceed nonetheless. There are a lot of us who are in need of healing, and I'll tell you, I'll share with you a little bit about my own journey as a soul, as a person who's needed healing. I'll share a little bit with you about my journey in terms of becoming a healer. I'll share with you a little bit about my journey in terms of my own healing. And hopefully that can offer some inspiration to you as I ultimately endeavor to share with you how you can learn to heal too. Whether that's being a healer of other people, whether that is you experiencing healing within your own life, or both. Ideally, both is best, right? Okay. So in terms of my own life journey, in terms of my own life journey, um, I happen to be a person who uh, grew up in Detroit, and at some point simultaneously in the city of Detroit and an adjacent suburb after my parents were divorced. Um, I'm the oldest of 5 siblings. Shout out to Devin, my youngest sibling, 16 years, my junior. Happy natal day, D. It's his birthday today. Um, and um, I've had different life experiences, some of which were pleasant, some of which were very unpleasant. As a very young child, as a baby, I had chicken pox at like 3 months old, well before I was able to had the muscle control to be able to scratch, and try to get myself some relief. You can imagine that was probably pretty miserable. Not long after that, I had bronchiolitis, something that is considered to never actually go away. By the way, anytime you hear itis in anything, whether it's laryngitis, whether it's arthritis, any itis is meningitis, any itis, anything that you hear the term itis is dealing with inflammation. Inflammation, chronic inflammation is really significantly tied to a lot of states of dis-ease, chronic disease that lead to death. Okay. Um, I would be sick all the time. Well, I never had as a child like leukemia or any form of cancer or other um, diseases of that nature. As a young person, I would be sick all the time. I'd be sick all the time. I'm from Michigan, grew up in Michigan where it can be cold. Pretty much the whole time it was cold, I would be sick. The whole entire time, which in Michigan, that's like half the year. Okay. Like I had a continuous cold that lasted from fall to spring, basically, possibly with little spurts of relief in between. I had a variety of different health issues, and I never found like Western medicine to help in my particular case. I would have these excruciating headaches all the time, which I would later come to realize. Cass from Farmington Hills. I used to live in Farmington Hills. Welcome. Good to have you here. Um, I would later come to recognize that it was tied to other digestive issues that I had. And I would take medication to try to help relieve the headaches. And all that would happen is I would then continue to have a headache, but also have a stomach ache to go along with it. It never did anything to relieve my headache. There were times I can't count how many times on all of my fingers and toes I have completely lost my voice in my lifetime. There have been just a lot of different things. Like I said, medication, Western medicine never actually helped me in my particular case. And so somewhere along the way, I found myself on a spiritual journey. I didn't at the time recognize a direct correlation between my own spiritual journey and my need for healing or anything related to health. I just somehow, after having some life experiences, some things that hurt me deeply personally, experiences of loss, um, of loss, heartache, and loss, um, I ended up making a decision to give my life to God, to get on a spiritual journey. Um, and in that process, I felt a greater sense of peace. Um, didn't have any improvement in terms of the health situations that I would deal with, but I did find a greater sense of peace. The way that unfolded for me was largely in context of um, more traditional Christianity, although I had some roots and some other things that helped me give me some level of awareness. But even then, you know, there were aspects where I was kind of pious and holier than thou, something that most people who know me today wouldn't guess that I used to be that way, because it's not really how I roll now. But where, you know, I was kind of pious and holier than thou, and maybe a little judgmental, take away the maybe. Um, as things continued to unfold, I ended up accepting a call to ministry, going to seminary, um, being licensed for ministry, going to seminary to hone what I thought would be important things to be able to help me support other people in their spiritual walk and their spiritual journey. Transferred from one seminary to another after a series of events where I ultimately ended up being asked to leave. And then when I didn't at first at that point leave, I ended up being told that I would no longer be welcome to attend their institution. And the basis of that decision, the official reason, said that I did not demonstrate a promise for ministry. Also had a professor tell me that it was odd that they had people there who had profound spiritual experiences. Later said that it was almost never. And for a while, I probably was, I'm sure I was judgmental towards them, but it also left a deep level of pain. Here I am, a young minister, wanting really genuinely to be able to develop skills, tools, knowledge, awareness, to be able to support people in their spiritual journey. And then where I go to get the training for that, pursuing a Master of Divinity degree, which I actually thought was kind of oxymoronic, because how do you go to school and study from books to master divinity? Which is actually one of the problems that I ran into, and how I kind of got myself into trouble. But then I, you know, even while in seminary, I was doing a lot of studying of other things, like deeper things in terms of understanding, like mysteries of life, of the universe, of my own being. And so there are a lot of things in addition to the schoolwork that I had been studying, that I had been exploring and researching. And there would be different little exercises that I would do. There'd be different little exercises I would do, like put water in a bowl and try to make it ripple, and a variety of other different things. There was a period in my life where my whole life was dedicated just to prayer, study, meditation, and doing these, what I called at the time, spiritual exercises, right? It was actually kind of in the context of that the whole healing thing came up. I had been to churches, more traditional, charismatic churches, sometimes that talked about healing, and they talked about, I remember the preacher saying sometimes, going to a friend's church, I remember hearing a preacher say, you know, somebody might get a healing, and they were talking about healing a lot in the service, and I was waiting, looking anxiously, waiting for something to happen. I never did see that happen. They talked about it, but I didn't actually see it happen. But I definitely did have a deep curiosity about it, because I came to understand along this journey that there's more here than what meets the eye, right? There's more here than what meets the eye. And somehow along that way, healing got my attention, really just as part of a greater spiritual journey, and really out of a deep curiosity about the mysteries of existence and my own existence, right? And so I had remembered reading in the Bible how it talked about Jesus did healings on people, and it would say, a lot of times it would say these two words, and immediately. And immediately these people were healed. And on my journey, I came to become familiar with different healing modalities. Um, and a lot of them I didn't feel particularly drawn to myself. Um, Ultimately, somewhere along the way, while on this spiritual journey, figuring out how I would go about ministering to people, ended up starting an organization called Free People Center for Truth, Love, and Wisdom, right? And it was geared at reaching all sorts of people wherever they might be. And I feel like I'm babbling or a little rambling here. My apologies, that's certainly not the intent. Ultimately, my own computer going down, I needed to go and utilize another computer, my mother's computer at the time. I was in my 20s, and went to utilize her computer to print out some materials for this ministry, Free People Center for Truth, Love, and Truth, Love, and Wisdom, which was really geared at all people, independent of whatever their religious background might have been. And I utilized her computer across the street from her computer in Farmington Hills, Michigan, Cass. Right across the street from where she was, there was a Office Max. They're Office Depot now, but Office Max. And I went there and I utilized their services to have these materials that are produced printed, and we need to get some things cut. A guy named Paul notified me that they're happy to assist with any other printing needs we might have, and asked if I wanted to see anything else. I wasn't really interested, but my mother literally wrote the book on manners, literally. And so to be polite, I wasn't really interested, but to be polite, I agreed to look at these, for him to show me these materials. And he showed me everything that he pulled out was for a person who would become my teacher, Dr. Cam Ewan, a 35th generation Shaolin master. I am so deeply grateful for learning about this man and being able to study under him. And I was blessed to study basic, intermediate, and advanced levels of Chinese energetic medicine under him. I went to a presentation. I was the first person there for this healing presentation and demonstration that he was doing. And this was at the turn of the millennium. I was so grateful. I think this was in December. This might have been December of 2000 or something like that. And this man, the wisest man that I have ever met, the wisest human being in the flesh that I've ever met in my lifetime to this day. And I was blown away because he seemed to understand the root cause of every sickness and every dis-ease. And I saw him working with people before my eyes, and their back straightening up, them becoming free of pain. People who looked like they had a cloud of darkness hovering over them, seeing that disappear and seeing them glowing. One person after another, I see this happening. I was blown away, and I was blessed to be able to study with them. Even though I didn't have the money, I can't explain to you now, other than the miracle working power of God, how I was able to actually be able to financially be in a position to do the training with them, because I was broke as the Ten Commandments at the time. I really didn't have much money at all. I was living in a 2-family flat in the city of Detroit. Just kind of substitute teaching and kind of struggling to make ends meet. But I ended up being blessed to study with him. And that totally transformed my life. Totally transformed my life. There was a doctor who was going through the basic level of Chinese energetic medicine in this training along with me. And he said he learned more in that weekend with Dr. Yuen about healing than he had in all of his years of school, all of his years of grade school, college, med school, residency, fellowship, and 30 years of practicing medicine. Things ended up unfolding where I didn't really know if I was doing this properly or not, but I started working with people and seeing phenomenal things happen. Just utilizing what I learned from this man. And worked with a lot of people who had like back pain, people with broken bones, worked with, someone who had a bullet, still multiple people that still had a bullet lodged in their body. All sorts of things. I was seeing really phenomenal results with a lot of people. And then I had an opportunity to do some additional training. In addition to the basic, intermediate, and advanced levels of Chinese energetic medicine with Dr. Yuen, I ended up being able to connect with another teacher, and I learned about the DNA. And I ended up being certified in energy interference patterning of DNA, and DNA integration and reprogramming, and in evolved soul activation and rapid healing. Those were three other modalities that I ended up being certified in under a different teacher. Margaret Ruby is her name. And again, I continued to work with a lot of people and seeing a lot of really phenomenal things happen. And then a message came. I was given a message that a time would come where I would need to make a decision on whether to just keep doing the healing myself or to train other people to do what I did. And I'll be honest with you, my first thought was not to teach other people for very ego-based reasons. I later realized, shortly after, it didn't take a long time, that the best route to go would be to teach other people. But at the time, I knew it would cost thousands of more dollars to teach other people, to get the okay from my teachers to teach their modalities. And so what I started doing is I started doing healing on myself. And instead of doing healing on myself for the purpose of getting rid of pain or healing from a sickness or a cold or whatever, I started doing healing of myself to develop and teach a healing modality. And so I'm doing healing treatments on myself, the same types of treatments, the same way I would treat other people for whatever their illness or dis-ease or infirmity was, that I saw phenomenal results with. I started doing treatments on myself, healing treatments on myself for the purpose of developing and teaching a healing modality. And Transcending the Matrix was the result of that. The first class ended up being taught the weekend of September 26th through 28th, 2003. And the manual was only completed on September 26th, 2003. Okay, just about 22 years ago. And for a long time, I was doing healings on other people, teaching other people to do healings on other people. Still continue to do that. Still very thankful to be able to do that. Have a healing class and be teaching people Transcending the Matrix, or initiating people into the Transcending the Matrix system of healing the last weekend of this month. And so Friday through Sunday, the dates are escaping me, but I've got a banner here somewhere that actually mentions the dates. the 27th through the 29th, June 27th through 29th. That's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all day, each day. By the end of Saturday, you'll be able to do what I do. But that's part of it as it relates to how I came to learn to heal people. And my life has not been the same since. And as a result of that, many, 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 many other people's lives haven't been the same since either. There have been a lot of people who thought that they were going to have to live with pain that are pain-free now. There are a lot of people who had serious diagnoses and prognoses that is no longer their story now, as a result of me learning to heal in the context of learning to heal people, right? Or learning to heal other people, utilizing prior to Transcending the Matrix, the other modalities that I used, and since Transcending the Matrix, utilizing Transcending the Matrix. Now, this is where it starts to get really, really personal. Because though a kind and gentle soul I may be, a wounded soul also was I. Okay. And not a lot of people have necessarily known that. And I'm sharing this. Believe me, I'm getting absolutely no pleasure in sharing this whatsoever, but I'm sharing this from a place of transparency, because my deep, deep, deep desire is, if there's some way that you resonate with this, for you to be able to have hope and to be able to find a deeper level of healing in your own life, a deeper level of healing in your own life. And I want to tell you that I'm a person who has for quite a while endeavored to do right by people, by other people. But a confession is that there were something that was seriously in my blind side, in my blind spot, was how to do right by me. And so, in so many ways that have had very significant impacts on my life, I failed to recognize my own worthiness. And some of the ways that ended up manifesting in my life is by being in places that really just weren't a good match for me. That school that I ended up being kicked out of, it wasn't that the school was wrong or bad. You know, granted that somebody graduated from there with a 4.0 GPA the semester before I got there, who was a confessed atheist. I don't know how that works. how you graduate with high honors from seminary as an atheist. I still don't quite get that, but there is a lot that I really just don't quite understand. Shout out to Sweet Honey in the Rock, who has a song called I Don't Understand. Check it out if you get a chance. At any rate, I wasn't bad. That school wasn't bad. We just weren't right for each other. It just wasn't a good fit. And because there were certain unhealed aspects in me, I got very good at finding myself in places that just were not a good fit. I found myself in relationship in terms of that school. It really was not at all a good fit, and it ended up resulting in a lot of pain and heartache for me. And in a lot of ways, feeling lost about where it was that I would go after that. You know, a little bewildered, I would say. It manifested in terms of me finding myself in work environments that were not a good fit. You know, I won't get too deep into a lot of the details right now, but I definitely found myself in situations where I really had no business being there. It wasn't that I wasn't good. It wasn't that they weren't good. We just weren't good for each other. It wasn't a place where they valued what I had to offer, and it wasn't a place that I felt valued or appreciated or properly compensated. This was something that was a part of my life for a long, long time. Maybe that specific thing isn't part of your journey, and maybe it is. I'm just sharing with you about how I learned to heal and pointing to some factors that pointed to, that spoke to some areas wherein I was unhealed, right? And another key way that it showed up for this eternal romantic was tremendous amount of discord in relationships. I would find myself not properly matched in relationships. I was even in a play. I was even in a play where I played a role of the preacher or bishop in a play called Unequally Yoked. It's like God was trying to get my attention, right? I think about the movie The Color Purple. At the end of the movie, there's a song, and what the whole song is about is maybe God is trying to tell you something, right? I wasn't getting the message. Again, not that those were bad people, not that I was a bad person, but it wasn't the right situation. It wasn't good. It wasn't healthy. It ended up resulting in a lot of pain, and a lot of pain that would have been otherwise unnecessary, right? A lot of pain that would have been otherwise unnecessary. And there would be a lot of situations in terms of my living environments, a lot of other things that really spoke to areas within me where there was some brokenness and where there was some healing necessary. And I'm going to tell you, as a person who is a so-called healer, and yes, I've seen some really profound things happen for people in terms of their life and in terms of their journey. But there were so many areas of healing that were important for me. And there had been so many times where I neglected to do healing on myself for things that needed healing, that I either didn't recognize there was a need for healing, or I didn't love myself or feel worthy enough within myself to give myself to the healing that was available. All right? Am I in anybody's email right now? Maybe you consider yourself a healer, maybe you don't, but maybe regardless of where you are or whether you do or not, maybe there's an area in your life where you can use some healing. And how I came to learn to heal in terms of within me, not just in terms of transcending the matrix, doing treatments on myself, even though that is a part. How I learned to heal is somewhere along the way, in doing thousands of healings for thousands of different people, each time calling in the presence of God's pure love and divine light into the presence of the person who I'm doing the healing for. Hearing myself say to other people and counseling them over and over and over and over again that you're worthy of love, that you're deserving of love, that there is something pure in you, that independent of the things that you've experienced or the things that you've gone through or the mistakes that you've made, that you are still loved, that God still loves you. You are worthy of love, and you are worthy of having an incredibly bountifully blessed life. All right? It's been over a process of time that it somehow started to click in me. That it somehow started to click in me. I'm a person who has gone through some things that have been highly unpleasant. I'm a person who went a year in cold Michigan during the winter without electricity, using a gas stove to heat the home that I lived, that same little 2-family flat that I lived in for a year. You know, I'm a person who, even after that, you know, spent some time not knowing where I was going to lay my head. Spent several nights sleeping in my car. Right? You know, I spent some time in some situations that really weren't necessarily pleasant experiences. Experiences that I perhaps on some level thought I needed to have to build character or whatever. Whether that was in those type of experiences, as far as how things manifested in my life on a material level, or how things manifested in my life on a relationship level, or how things manifested in my life on a physical health level, or any other level. Somewhere along the journey, I came to recognize that it is okay for me to make myself available to the love that is available. And there's a lady named Anita Moorjani, who I got an opportunity to hear her story. I wouldn't have known who she was if not for a gentleman by the name of Dr. Wayne Dyer, who used to do these PBS things all the time. And I used to check him out a lot. And he, you know, kind of exposed her on one of the times he was doing this, and let the world be made aware of her and her story. And I think the name of her first book was Dying to Be Me, or something like that. And there were things that she said that resonated with me. And I would begin to follow her, check out her YouTube videos and the content that she would create. And she talked about, she had a near-death experience. She died. And during that time, she actually ended up meeting her deceased father. She ended up actually having some really profound revelations in terms of why she ended up developing this cancer, what brought it about, what caused it. And it was the ways that she had abandoned herself, the ways in which she had neglected herself. Anyway, like I said, I continued to check out some of her things along the way, while being a person who is an avowed peace-loving person who doesn't like to deal in drama, or didn't even then like to deal in drama, supposedly. I found that it that it made its way to me in relationships. And though I didn't feel like I was the one who was creating the drama, I was definitely ended up being wrapped up in it. You know, being presented with a lot of hostility from people who were wherever they were in their own journey towards wholeness, where a lot of things, I knew a lot of things were being projected towards me. What I didn't recognize is that it was really just out picturing of what I felt within myself, right? Of what I felt worthy of or unworthy of within myself. Anyway, I would hear Anita Moorjani one time mention this affirmation. And in this affirmation, the affirmation essentially said, I only engage with those who are loving and appreciative towards me. Ingenious affirmation. I only engage with those who are loving and appreciative towards me. That doesn't mean there aren't people in your life who, who've got their stuff going on and whatnot. But in terms of really engaging with people, really getting tied in with people, locked in with people, only the people uh, who can show up as love and light in my life would be welcome to really have a high level of access to me. Okay. I started doing that. It took a little while before I let it get in my bone marrow. But what started happening is I started seeing the folks who wanted to keep up the drama, I started seeing them fall away. I started making decisions to put myself in situations that were more supportive of my highest and best good and the highest and best good of everybody involved. I started putting myself in situations where I was able to prosper more freely, okay, in various aspects of my life, financially, emotionally, relationally, and otherwise. And I want to say to you today, beloved, I just want to encourage you to know that you really are worthy of love. And maybe there's some things that happened to you in your life. Maybe you had been through some form of abuse. Maybe you were even a person who engaged in some form of abuse and abused somebody else. Maybe you're a person who received a lot of negative messages. Maybe you're somebody who grew up in an environment where there was a lot of poverty. Or maybe you grew up in an environment where there was a lot of opulence, a lot of wealth, but you ended up being or feeling neglected by your caregivers. Maybe you're a person who ended up having a series of experiences where people were taking advantage of you or not doing right by you. And maybe you were a person who has taken advantage of other people. Maybe you're a person who ended up being used for other people's pleasure, whatever that means, whether sexually or otherwise. And then once they got what, maybe sexually, maybe financially, maybe some other kind of way. And then once they got what it was that they wanted from you, or maybe even needed from you, then they discarded you and moved on. Count that a blessing, by the way. May be hard to hear. I've come to learn that to be a blessing. Rejection can be protection. Anyway, regardless of whether any of those things happen to you or something else, I'm here to tell you today from personal experience that once you get it in your heart and mind that you really are worthy and deserving of love, you will become completely free of the need to blame anybody else for your problems. I'm telling you, I've been in some situations where most people would say that I was done wrong. And maybe you have been in some situations where you felt like somebody did you wrong. But I'm here to tell you, beloved, I'm here to tell you, regardless of what your experience might have been with somebody else, maybe your parents weren't able to meet some needs that you had as a child. Maybe in some romantic relationship, maybe somebody cheated on you. Maybe somebody, wasn't able to fulfill the authentic needs that you genuinely had. Maybe you've been gaslit. I don't know what your specific story is or what specific things that you've been through. But what I do know, and what I'm here to tell you today from a place of deep conviction, is that when you make up your mind that you are going to have a bountifully blessed life, when you make up your mind that you are worthy of love and you choose to participate with that which evidences your willingness to be lined up and tuned in to love and to joy and to that which supports your highest and best good and the highest and best good of everyone involved, you'll start to see that the crazy people in your life, one of two things will happen. Either they will fade away, they will drop out of your life, or they'll change. Which one it is, we don't get to choose which one it will be, but you will start to see that there'll be more peace coming into your life. What you will start to see is that there'll be more people that you'll be interacting with who are demonstrating a higher level of wholeness. The way that they treat you will reflect your higher level of wholeness. You will have established around yourself a healthy boundary that says only that which brings well-being to me is allowed or is welcomed into my space. And it no longer has to be you judging other people for where they fall short or how it is that they're not meeting your needs. Guess what? Once you get to the point of your authentic needs being met, and there is a significant difference between what your genuine authentic needs are and what you might just want out of an ego context. You might want somebody who you consider to be extremely attractive. And you might want somebody who's got a certain degree of swagger, or want somebody whose body looks like this, but maybe what you need is somebody who is caring and someone who's loving and someone who's faithful, right? Someone who you can be your complete self with, without feeling a need to put on airs, and don't have to be fearful about how it is that they're going to be, or whether you're going to lose them, or whether they're going to step out on you, or all of those different things. You know, when you really get to a point of choosing that your healing and your well-being is of prime importance, then you'll get to a point where you no longer find yourself coming up with reasons or excuses for why you have to endure the things which are not supportive of your highest and best good. As you come to a point of really being truly open to your own healing, you won't let anything stand in the way of your healing. It won't be other people's insecurities. It won't be other people's attempt to manipulate you, or guilt trip you to get you to attend pity parties or guilt trips. You'll get to a point where you no longer accept people's invitations to their guilt trips or join them at their pity parties. You get to a point where you choose to love yourself and them enough to operate from a state of wholeness. Healing is only necessary because there's been some level of brokenness along the way. It doesn't make you bad because you've been broken. It just makes you primed for healing. There's nothing wrong with needing healing. Every human who enters the earth realm ends up needing healing. It doesn't make you weak because you need healing. It makes you strong when you're able to admit to yourself that it's needed, and to put yourself in a position to get what it is that you genuinely and most authentically need. Now, I know I've talked a while. We haven't really done a whole lot of healing regarding this. Maybe we'll come up with a part 2 in terms of doing healing. I told you earlier that Transcending the Matrix is a methodology, and I'll pull that banner back up for anybody who's interested in, that's the wrong one. For anyone who's interested in going through the Transcending the Matrix training / initiation, I found it to be something that has really profoundly transformed my own life and has helped other people as well. If you're at all interested in that, I'm happy to share what it is that I know with you that can empower you to help other people as well as yourself. Okay. Again, that's June 27th through the 29th. That's the last weekend of this month. And it's via Zoom. So wherever you are in the world, you'll be able to participate in it. Certainly happy to have you participate in that. And I'll let it run for the remainder of our time here together today. But perhaps next week we'll actually do the healing. Like I said, I did healing on myself to develop and teach a technique. I didn't have any idea how I was going to develop or teach a technique. So I did healing on myself to be able to develop and teach a modality, and have been teaching it since September 26th of 2003. Today is June 1st. Again, happy natal day, D. June 1st, 2025. So it's going on 22 years of teaching this. Perhaps next week we'll do a part 2 where actually do healing treatment on everybody present to be open to healing or to learning to heal yourselves. Going both ways in terms of learning to be a healer of other people and learning to welcome healing into your own life. I really do believe that the more healed we are, or the more whole we are, the more we're able to interact with other people from a place of wholeness. The more healed we are, the more we're operating from a place of love and joy. The more healed we are, the more we're able to impact or interact with other people in a way that is able to kind of deactivate their triggers and deactivate their buttons and bring a certain level of healing and peace to them. Anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I was glad to be here with you today. And as we continue to endeavor to enter into that sustainable state of supreme satisfaction, until we meet again, I bid you adieu with peace and love, and I'll catch you next time.